What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you are a New York Yankees fan or just a hardcore baseball fan in general, we're going to want to sit down for this one because the trade talk heating up right now around the Bronx Bombers is absolutely insane. We are talking about one of the most dominant pitchers on the planet, a two-time consecutive American League Cy Young Award winner, a guy who has been basically unhittable for the last two seasons, and right now the Yankees are being linked to him in a serious way. We are talking about Detroit Tigers' Tarik Skubal, and the question that the entire baseball world is asking right now is simple. Could this actually happen? Before we get into the full breakdown, let me just remind you what kind of pitcher we are talking about here, because if you have not been watching Skubal closely, you are genuinely missing out on one of the most special arms in baseball. In the 2025 season, Skubal went 13-6 with a 2.21 ERA and a career high. 241 strikeouts across 31 games with Detroit. That performance earned him his second straight AL Cy Young Award, which means this guy has now back-to-back won the most prestigious individual pitching award in the American League. For context, names like Justin Verlander, Pedro Martinez, and Roger Clemens have done that kind of thing, and Skubal is now in that elite company. He is 29 years old, left-handed, and has a fastball-slider combination that genuinely makes hitters look silly. When you talk about guys who could transform a pitching rotation overnight, Skubal is the name that comes up first every single time. Now here is where the Yankees come in. New York is currently sitting at 27 wins and 17 losses, which puts them second in the AL East behind the Tampa Bay Rays. That is still a really strong record, and this is clearly a team that believes it can make a deep playoff run this year. The roster already has Max Fried, Jarrett Cole, and Carlos Rodon locking up the top three spots in the rotation, and on paper that sounds incredible. But baseball is not played on paper, and anyone who watched what happened to New York in recent postseasons knows that depth and elite starting pitching can never truly be taken for granted. Adding Skubal to that mix, and we are talking about a rotation of Skubal, Cole, Fried, and Rodon in a playoff series would be genuinely terrifying for any opponent. It would arguably be one of the best postseason rotations assembled in the modern era of baseball. So why would Detroit even consider trading him? That is the part of this story that makes the situation so fascinating and so complicated at the same time. Skubal is in the final year of his contract. He is set to become a free agent after this season. The projections for what he is going to command on the open market are absolutely staggering. Analysts and insiders across the industry believe his next contract could shatter the all-time record for a pitcher, with numbers starting at $400 million being floated around as a realistic floor for bidding. Jarrett Cole's 9-year, $324 million deal with the Yankees back in 2019 set the previous standard, and Skubal, coming off two Cy Young Awards at age 29, is widely expected to blow past that. Detroit simply cannot afford that kind of contract, which means the Tigers are essentially sitting on a depreciating asset. The longer they wait, the more risk they absorb: injury risk, performance risk, the risk of Skubal walking in free agency and getting nothing in return. There is already a significant wrinkle in the story that has changed the timeline a bit. Earlier this season, Skubal underwent elbow surgery to remove what was described as a small loose body. He is currently on the injured list. However, reporter John Heyman noted that the procedure was considered a success, with some sources even suggesting a 4 to 6 week return timeline is possible, making the 2-month estimate a conservative one. So yes, there is an injury factor here, but it does not appear to be the kind of long-term concern that would fundamentally change Skubal's value or availability. Once he returns, he is expected to be fully healthy and pitching at the same elite level. But this injury has also changed the trade calculus a little, because any team acquiring Skubal now takes on the uncertainty of his return date, which could theoretically push the cost slightly down from the absolute maximum. The Yankees have been here before. They know exactly what it looks like to trade for an elite player in the final year of his deal and absorb all the risk that comes with it. Back in 2023, they acquired Juan Soto from the San Diego Padres despite him being a rental. Soto ultimately left for the New York Mets, but the Yankees still made a pennant run in 2024 and came incredibly close to ending their World Series drought, which is now stretched to 2009. That experience tells you something important about the Yankees' front office mindset. They are not afraid of paying a massive prospect price for a single season of elite production if they genuinely believe that player gives them a championship. And with the Dodgers having now won back-to-back World Series titles, there is clearly a sense of urgency in the Bronx to catch up before Los Angeles potentially becomes the first team to three-peat, since ironically the Yankees themselves did it from 1998 to 2000. So what would this trade actually look like? This is where things get truly wild. Multiple mock trade proposals and industry discussions have floated the idea that a package for Skubal would need to include several of the Yankees' most prized young assets. Names like outfielder Jason Dominguez, top outfield prospect Spencer Jones, pitcher Will Warren, and possibly another controllable Young Peace like Cam Schlittler or Chase Hampton have all been mentioned in various proposals. That is an absolutely massive haul to give up for essentially 1 year of a player, even one as good as Skubal. But multiple baseball analysts have made the comparison to the old-school Yankee dynasty moves, pointing out that in the late 1990s and early 2000s, New York was famous for trading significant prospect capital tool and the one arm that pushed them over the top. That approach gave them CC Sabathia in 2009, which ended their last World Series drought. The question is whether Skubal can be their version of Sabathia or Randy Johnson, the singular veteran ace who comes in at the deadline and elevates a good team into an unstoppable one. From Detroit's side, the math is not simple either. The Tigers currently sit at 19 wins and 23 losses, which puts them in a tough spot in the AL Central. They are not in contention right now, and with Skubal's free agency looming and the injury creating additional uncertainty, Detroit's front office has to seriously weigh whether holding on to Skubal is worth the risk of potentially getting nothing when he walks in November. The smarter financial move, according to most analysts, is to trade him while his value remains sky high and collect a franchise reshaping package of young controllable players, turning one star into 4 or 5 high upside building blocks is exactly how franchises rebuild properly, and Detroit has the blueprint for this kind of move right in front of them. Getting a player like Dominguez, who is a legitimate five-tool talent along with multiple pitching prospects, would give the Tigers the foundation to build something real over the next several years. The bigger baseball world has absolutely taken notice of all of this. The trade chatter has been dominating Melb circles since the offseason, and it has only intensified as the season has gotten underway. People across the league are watching Detroit's record, watching Skubal's injury situation, and watching the Yankees' division standing. All at the same time, every piece of the puzzle feeds into the likelihood of this deal happening. If Detroit continues to struggle and slides further out of contention by mid-July, the pressure on their front office to pull the trigger on a trade becomes almost overwhelming. They would not want to repeat the mistake of waiting too long and losing Skubal for nothing, which is a lesson the baseball world has seen play out with other star players far too many times. For Yankees fans specifically, the emotional stakes here are enormous. This is a franchise with 27 World Series titles, the most in baseball history, and yet their drought since 2009 has now lasted nearly 2 decades. Every offseason, every trade deadline, every big decision gets filtered through the lens of that drought and the burning desire to add number 28. The fan base has watched the Mets steal Juan Soto away, watched the Dodgers build a dynasty right before their eyes, and watched some of the best Yankee rosters in recent memory fall short in October. The idea of adding the best pitcher in baseball to a rotation that already includes Cole and Fried is the kind of move that would genuinely send shock waves through the entire league and signal that New York is completely, unapologetically going for it. The counter-argument, of course, is that the Yankees would be giving up enormous future value for a single playoff run, and there is no guarantee Skubal would even re-sign in New York long-term. The prospect cost, particularly if it involves someone like Dominguez or Jones, both of whom are considered genuine future stars, is the kind of toll that could set the organization back significantly if the championship bid falls short. These are legitimate concerns, and they are the exact reasons why this deal has not already happened. Both sides have real incentives to wait and see how the season develops before committing to a monster trade of this scale. But here is the thing. The window for the New York Yankees is right now. Jarrett Cole is not getting younger. Max Fried and Carlos Rodon are excellent pitchers, but they are not transcendent in the way that Skubal is at this moment. The offense, anchored by Aaron Judge, who is currently on pace for another massive home run season, is elite. The pieces are in place for a genuine World Series run this year. What this team may be missing is that one singular difference maker at the top of the rotation, the guy you put on the mound in Game 1 of a playoff series knowing that the other team has absolutely no answer for him. That is Tarik Skubal, and the Yankees know it. So whether this trade happens in the next few weeks or at the July deadline, one thing is completely clear: the Yankees are watching, the Tigers are listening, and the baseball world is on the edge of its seat. This is the kind of blockbuster that only comes along once in a generation, the kind of deal that you look back on years later and say, that was the moment that changed everything. We are going to be following this story every single step of the way right here on this channel, so make sure you are subscribed, hit that bell icon so you do not miss a single update, and drop a comment below telling me whether you think the Yankees should pull the trigger on this deal. Do they go all in for Skubal, or is the prospect cost simply too high? Let me know your thoughts, and as always, thank you so much for watching.